because understanding is really half the battle. So here you're gonna go through it. You're gonna walk through some of these by hand. You're gonna answer them by hand. You're gonna generate some fake speeches by hand on really small data sets, so they're not quite gonna sound realistic because you're doing stuff with this little 2-paragraph nursery rhyme. But this will give you an idea for how this stuff is supposed to work and why it's interesting and how to think about it next week when you start to look at doing code. So what is this thing you're building? This thing you're building is called a Markov model. There's some technical background in the assignment that sort of tells you what they are and what they might be used for. They're for modeling things that are pseudo-random. They're not really random. They follow some sort of pattern. It's just not obvious what the pattern is, like weather. If it's rainy here one day, it's probably going to be rainy just east of here on the next day. You can figure this out. If it's rainy here one day, it's more likely to be rainy tomorrow than if it was sunny today. If it's sunny and it's in the middle of summer, it's probably going to be sunny again tomorrow. I mean, there are sort of these relative probabilities you can figure out. Or the one I have in here is pop quizzes. On an exam day, you're probably not going to have a pop quiz. If you had a pop quiz last class, you're probably not going to have a pop quiz. If you haven't had a pop quiz for like 4 days straight, you're probably going to have one the next day. I mean, the probability of this sort of changes, but you can't really predict what's happening. It turns out that people talking is a great example of this. If I'm about to say something and I stop short, you can probably figure out what I was going to say. Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do in the next 2 weeks in code. And this one is just getting you used to that without code. So as an example of, I guess, how easy this is and how fun it could be, there was a college student who went to a hackathon and I think in one night wrote this little app online that you guys can go look at afterwards that if you log in with Facebook, it'll take a bunch of your Facebook statuses and then create random statuses that sound like something you could have said. So apparently during finals one year, I could have said 2 classes down, 2 subjects down, 1 to go. It's not exactly something I said, but it's pretty similar. It could get a non-flamboyant, plain old new thing. When you stop and think about it, it's like, I don't actually know what that says. But it sort of looks like a sentence.
No part of it feels wrong.
Yeah.
It feels right, it's just nonsense.
All the parts are right, it just doesn't mean anything. And back in the day that you guys don't remember when Facebook statuses started with your name and were a sentence. Jeff Aronson is disappointed because he probably wouldn't celebrate the number and being happy. Not necessarily the number of the reading look that, yeah, no.
Tears.
Each part of it kind of makes sense as part of the sentence. As a whole, it's a little bit gibberish, but I also haven't written a lot of Facebook statuses. At any rate, this'll keep going and you can keep looking and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't remember I ever said that. But now I remember, oh yeah, I talked about that at one point.
What? Oh darn. That's too bad.
That one's a quote. That one's a quote.
Nobody throws a door.
Yeah, I put out free fries. No. It's probably something I actually said.
Right. So anyway, you could play with this a bit, but this is basically what we're gonna do. The only difference between this and the thing that you're gonna write 2 weeks from now is that you don't have a list of all your Facebook statuses to read in as input. Instead, all we have are like speeches by Stephen Colbert and books by Sherlock Holmes and stuff. So it'll be less interesting. But yeah, you can go play with this, and this is all Markov models under the hood. Yeah.
So is this what predictive typing on your phone does?
Yes, this is exactly what predictive typing on your phone does. When you type like 2 or 3 words into your keyboard, it looks at those past 2 or 3 words and tries to figure out what you normally type after that. So if you type going, it'll probably figure out the next word might be two. If you type I'm, it might figure out the next word is going to be going or tired. I don't know. How do you normally talk? And your phone will learn over time too, and that's how you can sort of teach it to put particular words one after the other. But yes, that's exactly what predictive typing does. And it has this little model on your phone that it just keeps updating with what you type. What are some other?
At the end of this assignment, you'll pretty much be able to write predictive typing in Python.
Pretty much, yeah. Not, I mean, it'll be
The stuff
slightly
we're doing
different,
typing.
but you'll have done something really, really similar. What other? Oh yeah. So there's another example in here that there's an article you can read through about how someone did this with a little robot that would make blog posts or like forum posts, and they read like that. You know, each individual part of them made sense, but the whole thing was like nonsense, and people couldn't figure out whether it was a person or not. They thought it was a real person making these posts, and eventually they said, "Oh no, that was just a robot that I taught to write stupid stuff on the internet." People have gone so far as to make a Markov model that generated a scientific research paper, and they submitted it to a conference, and it got accepted to the conference. Right? It might have been nonsense overall, but each individual part of it kind of made sense. And apparently they got it past the organizers of the conference because it looked so realistic enough if you just read through it without thinking really hard about what you were reading. So this stuff is cool and fun and a little bit real world useful. But yeah, that's what we're doing this week. It's exciting. It's a little bit dry to start with, but it's fun to play with when you're done. Yeah, that's all I got. So before we leave, we have like 1 more minute. Questions about like lab or assignment? Awesome. I hope we got you guys unblocked enough to make the rest of the lab a little easier. Best of luck, and we'll see you on Monday. Thanks.
I can like see the little mic thing. Okay, I'm done.